California Governor Jerry Brown has signed a law that requires publicly traded companies to include women on their boards of directors. Companies headquartered in the state will have to include at least one woman on the board by the end of 2019 and 2 or 3 women by 2021, depending on the size of the board. Governor Brown acknowledged that serious legal concerns could prove fatal.
So there are several big tech companies that don't measure up. I mean, Facebook, pretty surprising given Sheryl Sandberg's leadership, but Facebook only has 2 female board members, and they won't meet that threshold in coming years that this bill requires if they don't add more. Why is it so hard for these companies apparently to find women?
Well, you know what? What's the consequence for the defendant who's been accused of something like sexual harassment, some gender discrimination, once this filing goes viral and so many people read it, even though there hasn't even been a trial yet?
It's a really serious fairness question. You can have a lawsuit filed against you. It can go absolutely crazy online. It can leave a huge trail over Google. It can basically ruin your reputation. And these allegations they can be pretty unsupported. You don't need to present a lot of concrete evidence to file a lawsuit. The discovery phase of the trial hasn't taken place yet. And so the concern is that these often men in these cases are left in a position of having their reputations unfairly maligned.
Well, the concern is that it's not just...
We need women building these products as well. So do you think the simple solution is just to hire more women?
I think that's one solution. I think, look, number one, we need to stop tolerating and enabling bad behavior. I think we need to change our idea of who can do these jobs. It's not just antisocial white men who are good at computers. And 3, I think CEOs and the leaders of these companies really need to lead from the top and make hiring and promoting women an explicit priority.
Nobody really knows, of course, because no male hiring partner is going to come out and say, I didn't hire a woman because I was afraid of being sued. We see it express itself in other ways in behavior, though. You hear a lot of male bosses say things like, well, I took a male colleague out for drinks at 8 o'clock at night, but I didn't want to take a female colleague because it might have seemed like I was doing something inappropriate or somebody could have misunderstood. And that can actually cost women mentoring relationships in the workplace.
Embattled Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer says she hopes to be with the company at this time next year. Myers made headlines when she left her job at Google in 2012 to head Yahoo. It made her one of the most prominent women in Silicon Valley. Expectations were high. In 2014, Vanity Fair even called her Yahoo's geek goddess. But now questions over her leadership and the direction of the country are clouding Yahoo's future. The company is expected to cut hundreds of jobs and may be exploring a possible sell. I spoke with her last night on my PBS program about what had gone wrong and what she could do to fix it.
What did she fail at?
I think leadership. I think that it was a revolving door. I think that she was not inspirational to people. I think that she certainly had the right idea doing mobile and video, advertising supported, but she also was up against the buzzsaws. Let's not underestimate that she was up against Alphabet, which has a lot of firepower, and up against Facebook, and these were really creative companies. Not unlike what happened with Microsoft under Ballmer. Yahoo retreated under Mayer. It became a holding company it became just a cash management company. Now, I think, look, she tried mightily. We all try mightily. We all want to be successful in our jobs. Not everybody can be. It's okay. She said that she has a $200 million payout. Look, that's Weltschmerz. I don't begrudge her anything. She worked hard. She's trying to do a lot of different things. But the problem in the end is that she couldn't grow. And growth is everything, whether it be Airbnb, whether it be Uber. Phil or Kill have an interesting piece about whether Uber ever make money, but it's got growth. And Wall Street wants growth. And when you don't have growth, there's no oxygen. If you do have growth, there is oxygen. That's what you have to think of. Growth is oxygen, and Yahoo did not have growth. So therefore, it had no oxygen.
A healthcare pioneer is being compared to visionaries like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. This morning, Elizabeth Holmes is part of the new Time 100 list just out. Her mission is to allow blood testing in every drugstore at a fraction of Medicare costs. Her innovation has fueled anticipation in the healthcare industry and made Holmes the world's youngest female self-made billionaire.
Now at 31, she's what lots of teenagers with that background likely strive to become.
The youngest billionaire in the world. Is that heady when you hear that?
You know, it's not what matters. What matters is how well we do in trying to make people's lives better. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I work the way that I work, and that's why I love what I'm doing so much.
What Holmes is doing is running Tharanos, the biotech company she founded in 2003.
Healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy.
You'll see her either in a black turtleneck or a white lab coat, taking a high-tech approach to blood testing. Instead of a needle to the arm, it's a pinprick to the finger. Holmes is marketing Theranos as a faster and cheaper alternative to a process that hasn't meaningfully changed in decades.
I just finished the best business book since Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's incredible autobiography. This one's called Bad Bloods by John Carreyrou, and it's about the sordid tale of Theranos, the alleged blood diagnostic company, and its charismatic and culpable founder, Elizabeth Holmes. This book reads like a novel about greed, about chicanery, and ultimately about tragedy. Tragedy for what it did to the people who used the device. I promise you that you will hate almost everyone connected with this company and think they should belong in jail when you're through reading this remarkable book, written by the man who first exposed the giant con, John Carreyrou, Pulitzer Prize winner reporter from the Wall Street Journal.
Theranos is a diagnostics startup that was founded in Silicon Valley in 2003, and its product was a device that was going to enable you to run the full range of laboratory tests off just a drop or two of blood from a finger. It was founded by a Stanford dropout, Elizabeth Holmes, in 2003, and she rose to fame about 10 years later in 2013. Graced the covers of magazines, and her company reached a valuation of more than $9 billion. Investors, in the end, were defrauded, and patients, the health of patients was jeopardized. Theranos investors did not do what you would consider sufficient due diligence. The other factor here in play is that Elizabeth was an incredibly smart, charismatic, charming young woman.
People don't even know that they have a basic human right to be able to get access to information about themselves and their own bodies.
Her eyes are part of her magic spell. They're part of her charisma. She seems to be able to look at people intently without blinking longer than the average human being can.
And we'd like to see a world in which every person gets access to this type of basic.
See, everybody wants us, but by shitting all over us, they try and bring our price down. But you shitting all over them counteracted their shitting all over us. You nagged a nag. Richard, this could be good. Where do we have next?
Ross Loma Capital.
Should I keep doing it? Should I keep negging?
No, I'll handle this. If they want to negotiate using hostility and rudeness, well, they picked the wrong guy.
Yes, sir. If you want real entertainment, the best place to find it is in front of a General Electric Black Daylight Big as Life television set. See it in operation at your General Electric dealers tomorrow. And when you see it, well, you'll know that you're seeing the best.
This ain't your father's General Electric. It's innovating in aviation, healthcare, energy, and beyond. The iconic industrial is going digital and shopping startups. Can the giant adapt at the speed of the future?
I don't mind. Look, sometimes in life you have to be harsh, and it's terrible. Sometimes in life you can't play for dinner. You have to say things you wouldn't like to say on TV. This is a disgrace, what happened here. It was a great American company, and Mr. Flannery's going to return it to be a great American company, as he did with healthcare. But I think if you don't speak out formally about what happened to this company, then you really are a sham. And I refuse to be a sham. And I'm proud that Mr. Haynes told me that I don't give free passes to people. There's no free pass. Mr. Rimmel did some bad things.
On this episode, Beth Comstock and her incredible new book are here. I think you're going to love this episode.
I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and I am basically trying to advocate for mothers who are professional mothers, but who have been out of the workforce for a long period of time, 5, 10, 15 years, and they might have been mid-managers or senior managers, and they would like to go back to work. And now the question I have is on a corporate management level, because that's where I'm going next. How do I convince somebody what you were at GE? How do I go to them and say, there's this mom who was amazing. She doesn't have paid work experience in the last 10 years, but before that, she was brilliant. So how do I convince them to take a chance?
Karen, I love this question, and I can also tell how hard it is. So, one, thanks for putting it out there. One, I would start with saying whatever's happened over the past. It's not that you were brilliant and then you went away 10 years and now you have to reestablish it. You're still brilliant. So, how do you package that? So some part of it is just packaging yourself. What are some things you've been doing? Maybe there's some things you've been working at your kid's school, at a community project that you could start to say, I've been doing marketing, or I'm a community organizer. So some of it is just packaging what you've been doing and letting people see those organizational skills or those promotion skills or operation skills that you have. That would be the first thing. To what Gary was saying earlier to his team here, I think you kind of have to keep bugging people. Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, meritocracy is not really, it depends on who sets the standards. And I think I've just clued into that in the past few years, just as you see that. I mean, certainly the Me Too movement, women have been seeing this for a while. Who set the standards? I once did a panel with somebody out of Silicon Valley, and he said, we're not going to lower our standards, and that's why we don't have any more women. Right. And I was like, who set the standards? How do you know the standards couldn't be higher if you had more women? But
this is why I tell anybody who feels that they're being not at the seat at the table, aka anybody who isn't an old white male, right? I basically say the same thing to them, like, fuck them. Don't play their game. Yeah. Go create your own fucking game.
And let's turn to a different conversation on questions of sexism in tech, finance, and Silicon Valley. Ellen Pao became a cause celeb in 2012 after she filed a gender discrimination lawsuit against her employer, the powerful venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins. Pao had been a junior partner and claimed that her bosses did not promote her because of her gender and retaliated against her for complaining. She asked for $16 million in damages in a trial, but lost, and her personal reputation was damaged along the way. Still, her case served as a wake-up call. She has a new book about it and the aftermath titled Reset. Our economics correspondent Paul Salmon sat down with Ellen Pao, part of his weekly series, Making Sense.
Ellen Pao, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
From your biography, you do not seem like the person who would sue Kleiner Perkins, or for that matter, pretty much anyone.
It's not my nature. I think the lawsuit was part of a mission to call attention to this problem. So I had tried so many other ways beforehand. I'm not doing that much press. I'm an introvert. This is hard for me, but it's like, kind of now that's going to go on air and all these people calling attention, seeing me on the street and recognizing me.
You don't want that?
I don't want that. It's not my personality and it makes me uncomfortable. But this is a culture that has pervasive problems, and seeing the extent of it, we need to do a whole reset.
Reset is the title of Pao's book, and with its claim of gender discrimination in Silicon Valley, it's become part of an increasingly polarized debate. Just in the last few months, charges of sexual discrimination and harassment have brought down the CEOs of Uber and the online lending startup Social Finance, spurring a backlash. A front-page article in this Sunday's New York Times featured Silicon Valley men alleging discrimination. Pao is a Princeton grad with degrees from Harvard Law and Harvard Business School, jobs in Silicon Valley since 1998, including a stint at venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins that triggered the gender bias lawsuit. What was the percentage of women in venture capital when you were there?
I believe it was about 6%.
And what's it now?
I think it's gone down. I think it's gone down to maybe 5%. And, less than 1% are Black or Latinx.
Do you think that you were sort of suppressing feelings you were having at the time, or the sense you were getting that there was systemic discrimination against you as a woman, perhaps you as a minority?
There were a lot of, 1,000 cuts in little small things that would make it very hard for women to be successful. So women were asked to take notes at meetings, and men were not. Women were asked to babysit. Women were asked to do some of the menial tasks of organizing events and planning conferences, but the men were not. So when it came time to invest, which was the work that you would get recognized and promoted for,
and compensated for.
It was much harder for women to be taken seriously, and it was harder to get investments through, and it was harder to be successful. And it was also possible for men to take away investments that women were working on if they looked good, and to dump investments that weren't doing so well on the women when they didn't want to work on them anymore.
Her problem, Powell claims, is that the young men went west.
Frat boy culture came in around 2008 when people stopped going to Wall Street, and the people who wanted to make big money fast wanted to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, and they all came out to Silicon Valley instead.
So you're at Kleiner Perkins. You're making a lot of money there, right?
Yeah, more than I could spend.
So what's happening there that's upsetting you?
I was getting blocked. I wasn't being invited to meetings. One of the women at the firm also actually mapped out investments for the women and investments for the men, and showed that the women's investments were doing significantly better. We have more experience, we have more education on average, and we're not getting promoted. And as a group, most of the men got promoted.
And you weren't getting promoted because?
Because we were women, and there was some kind of belief that the men were better despite all of the results and the
progress. Do you think that it's better now? Is it an era of people? I mean, things have changed around gay marriage, things have changed around all kinds of social issues. Is it an age thing? Where do you see the problem? Or is it just a pipeline issue, a simple pipeline issue?
God, I hate the pipeline issue.
Pipeline issue. Why do you hate the pipeline issue?
Because it's like, oh, well, I can't do anything. It's a pipeline. I got to wait till we get 50% women coming out of these schools studying computer science. So I'm doing my best, and it's a pipeline issue. It's out of my hands. It's a much bigger issue. It's like the leaky pipeline. It's not treating people fairly when they come in and they get there. It's not making it a fair playing field. It's not giving people opportunities. It's not giving people the recognition when they do succeed. There's a whole slew of things that people can do to make it more fair and to give people an even playing field. And when you talk about the pipeline, it's an excuse not to do anything.
What about the word unconscious bias? I hate that word. I'm on a war against it.
I didn't know that.
There's a word unconscious bias. I didn't mean to be biased. I didn't mean to do it. It's sort of, to me, it's an excuse for laziness, that I didn't see that there are 10 white men sitting across from me in my boardroom. I don't know how that happened.
But they don't. They don't see it. They really don't. And it's like by calling attention.
Really, it's like my kids. I didn't see that shirt on the floor, Mom. I didn't see it. I don't know how it got there, and it's a disgusting mess. I don't know what happened.
But if you call attention to it enough times, they'll start seeing.
No, not my kids, but they don't. People actually don't.
Yeah, I think it's something that it's just the way it is. I was talking to somebody on the way up, and she's like, in every meeting I'm with all men. It's all the time, and sometimes she doesn't even notice it anymore. And that's when you come up and you're just surrounded in the same environment all the time. You get used to it, and it becomes less of an awareness thing. And right now, I think what's happening is people are calling attention to it and saying,
his balls. He put his balls on the table?
Right on the table.
On purpose?
I don't see how it could be by accident.
Richard, I just got an email from the guys at Midland Oak. Apparently there is a line, and I crossed it. The line between $12 and $15 million. Ba-bam! Midland Oak's offer just came in. Gentlemen, we are valued at $75 million, fully diluted.
Are you shitting me?
Take a look at these term sheets. There is a linear correlation between how intolerable I was and the height of valuation.
Hey, guys. This is Lori Bream, the new manager.
Any of us in this room today, let's start out by admitting we're lucky. We don't live in the world our mothers lived in, our grandmothers lived in, where career choices for women were so limited. And if you're in this room today, most of us grew up in a world where we have basic civil rights. And amazingly, we still live in a world where some women don't have them. But all that aside, we still have a problem, and it's a real problem. And the problem is this: women are not making it to the top of any profession anywhere in the world. The numbers tell the story quite clearly. 190 heads of state, 9 are women. Of all the people in parliament in the world, 13% are women. In the corporate sector, women at the top, C-level jobs, board seats, tops out at 15-16%. The numbers have not moved since 2002 and are going in the wrong direction. And even in the nonprofit world, a world we sometimes think of as being led by more women, women at the top, 20%. We also have another problem, which is that women face harder choices between professional success and personal fulfillment. A recent study in the US showed that of senior managers, of married senior managers, 2/3 of the married men had children, and only 1/3 of the married women had children. A couple of years ago, I was in New York, and I was pitching a deal, and I was in one of those fancy New York private equity offices you can picture, and I'm in the meeting. It's about a 3-hour meeting, and 2 hours in, there's kind of needs to be that bio break, and everyone stands up, and the partner running the meeting starts looking really embarrassed. And I realize he doesn't know where the women's room is in his office. So I start looking around for moving boxes, figuring they just moved in, but I don't see any. And so I said, "So did you just move into this office?" And he said, "No, we've been here about a year." And I said, "Are you telling me that I'm the only woman to have pitched a deal in this office in a year?" And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, or maybe you're the only one who had to go to the bathroom."
Working in Silicon Valley as a woman is
frustrating, complicated, exhausting.
Every woman in our group says she's been sexually harassed. Talking about it publicly for the first time is not easy, but women are finding the courage. We saw that play out before our very eyes.
Literally Hitler. I mean, literally. People voted for him? Don't make it racist.
Harvey, can you take it 2 feet over? You're blocking the TV. Let's go through the worst offenders here, because again, and then we can tie it to or look at Hollywood at large. First off, okay, right off, Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep, very close to Weinstein, talked about being close to Weinstein. As a matter of fact, called him God in one of her acceptance speeches.
I just want to thank my agent, Kevin Uvain, and God, Harvey Weinstein.
Whoa. He didn't make her from the rib of man, he just raped her. Yeah. As a man. And then she went on to say that she had no idea, she claimed, regarding his sex scandal. She had no clue. Okay, again, let's do, nothing has been proven yet, okay? A lot of this is alleged, but here's the deal with Meryl Streep. Why don't I tend to believe her? Because even if she did know that Harvey Weinstein was a sexual assault, multiple-time felon, she doesn't have a problem with it. We know beyond a shadow of doubt she has no problem with sexual assault, as seen by her saying she felt sorry for multiple child rapist Roman Polanski for him being in jail, and she gave him a standing ovation at an awards ceremony.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski.
Yes, Roman Polanski, I'm very sorry that he's in jail.
Now, it might seem like that's bad, considering that he anally raped a 13-year-old girl on Quaaludes. Someone would say that's, look behind you, there's the line. But yeah, that's an important point. A lot of people don't necessarily know the politics behind the scenes, and you better thank Harvey Weinstein. It's been in the industry. I was surprised this story broke. Well, everyone's known that for years. It turns out there's more evidence and accusations here now, and more people are coming forward. That's why it is. And of course, by the way, with Gwyneth Paltrow, of course, all of this with Gwyneth happened while she was championing feminist causes like the gender pay gap, because she's a strong feminist who praises the people who commit sexual assault. Let's move on to Tina Fey.
Hoes want money, yo.
They want the money. Now, if we say that, that's considered sexist. If Harvey Weinstein says it, it's considered foreplay. Tina Fey knew all along, and you look back, you can see Seth MacFarlane's joke. You can see these little cues that everyone knew. She knew all along about Weinstein's debauchery. She even had a sketch in her show, 30 Rock. Okay, it was titled "Jenna Turned Down Harvey Weinstein 3 out of 5 times." Roll clip.
Don't do it, J-Mo. You don't want to mess with Weird Al.
Oh, please. I'm not afraid of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions out of 5.
It's almost like it's a well-known secret.
That's called normalizing, by the way. That's the thing they keep accusing us for constantly. That's what they do.
By the way, then Tina Fey, noted feminist and non-comedian in chief, went on to tell college-educated white women who voted for Trump that, well, first off, she chastised them and then told them that they couldn't look away.
A lot of this election was turned by white, college-educated women who now would maybe like to forget about this election and go back to watching HGTV, and I would want to urge them to
Silly middle American women.
Because it doesn't affect you this minute, but it's going to affect you eventually.
What about being mounted? Does that affect me right now? It might not affect you right now while you're watching AGTV. What about your guy who raped me?
Yeah, well, I was talking about the Harvey Weinstein. Anybody hear this guy, Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. And first of all, when did this guy have time to make movies? I don't know. I thought movie making was hard. Come on. No, but, you know, this guy, it's an unbelievable story. And I said, you know, all these guys who do sexual harassment, they're freaks. This big fat guy, what does he think? He says to a woman, here's his standard move according to all these women who've accused him. He goes, listen, I'm gonna get in the shower, I want you to watch me nude. Now, I'm a man. If you saw me naked, you'd throw up. There is no girl on the planet that wants to see Harvey Weinstein naked and is gonna get aroused. If I was Harvey Weinstein, I'd wear a burqa, and I'd say, listen, you don't have to look at me. I mean, who puts this logic together, right? Think about it. Imagine me naked. I was saying, yeah, Jimmy. Yes. As long as you got me. Same with this Bill O'Reilly. You know who he is? They threw him out of Fox. What was his move? He goes, I'm going to come over and get in the shower. What is with these guys in the shower? Men don't look good in the shower. It's the same with this Anthony Weiner.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You know, which is the funny, his name is, it's unbelievable, this guy. What does he do? He's texting and he's sending pictures of his penis. The one thing women don't want to see is a guy's penis. They want to see you got a job. They want to see you treat them nicely. Right, you're right. You're right. If I sent a woman a picture of your penis, you think she'd go to bed with you? No.
Never.
If you saw my penis, Jimmy, which you haven't yet, but we will. We'll get close.
Yes.
Next week.
Always knowing that we love Jell-O pudding, here's to Mom. And for always letting us lick the spoon after she mixes it, here's to Mom. And for not getting mad at us because we wore Dad's bowling shoes into the bathtub, here's to Mom.
Kids love Jell-O brand pudding, and since it's probably on your shelf, why not make some tonight?
Here's to you, Mom.
We got to be real careful with what you destroy a person's whole life with. So on the one side, you have the worst case scenario, which is like a Bill Cosby, who's drugging people and raping people. It's the worst case scenario for these powerful, elite type people that are getting these women into their web and pretending that they're going to help them.
Right.
He's another one.
Which they were all in on it, and everybody knew about it. For years, they knew about it.
It was written into his contract. It was sexual harassment clauses were in his contract, right? Wasn't that?
It was known for years.
Let's make sure we're correct
Let's
on
indict,
that. But we read
with
that
Harvey, you
online
know what
before.
bothers me about Harvey? Let me tell you what bothers me about Harvey.
What?
We got to indict everybody.
There's a lot of people that have to be indicted, and this is one of the things
The day of the kind of confidentiality agreement's over. I think it's just completely over.
Oh, the one that says I can't say anything that...
Yeah, because if you, 10 years ago, if you made a claim against me and I had a big movie coming out, okay, I have a $100 million movie, or I have a movie that is personally important to me coming out, and close to the release of that film, you say, Matt Damon grabbed my butt and stuck his tongue down my throat. We would then go to mediation and organize a settlement, right? I go, I don't want this out there, you know. Now with the internet and, you know, not that the internet wasn't there 10 years ago, but with social media, these stories it's like they get gasoline poured on them. So the moment a claim is made, if you make that same claim today to me, I'd be scorched earth. I'd go, I don't care if it costs me $10 million to fight this in court with you for 10 years. Mm-hmm. You are not taking my name from me. Mm-hmm. You are not taking my name and my reputation from me. I've worked too hard. I've worked too hard for it, yeah. and I earned it. And you can't just blow me up like that.
Because everybody knew. Everybody knew.
Okay, but here's the question. How much did they know?
Okay,
let me say this, though. Do you think that it's possible that his behavior was shielded from some of the people that he interacted with, like Hillary Clinton or Oprah or Bill Clinton or whoever that was some high-profile people that he interacted with? Is it possible that they didn't know? Is it possible that they just thought he was a pussy hound?
No.
Or do you think they all knew?
They knew he was a pussy hound.
I was shocked and appalled because I've known him through politics, as many Democrats
have. He's been a
was a
supporter.
funder, yeah.
He's been a funder, and for all of us, for Obama, for me, for people who've run for for office in the United States.
Sure.
So do you think that there was like a community of that where actors and actresses?
I think he had 4 or 5 guys that knew what he was doing. I want you to remember being 27 and having 4 of your boys that would come back every Monday with a different story to karate school.
Yeah.
I ate her ass, I fucked her on fire, whatever the fuck it is that you do. He told somebody. Somebody knew about all these stories. Some agents knew, somebody, because for the 100 of them that said no and whatever, there had to be 25. He was playing the percentages, Joe.
So me and Troy go over to the women's tribe, and we propose that they let us use the net, because they obviously don't know how to use the net. So they go over, me and Troy go over and we say, listen, if you let us use the net, we'll give you 50% of whatever we catch. And they're like, no. We're not down with that. And they're trying to play hardball, and I'm like, fine. You're not gonna catch any fish. That's fine. It's either way, it's good for me. If you say no, that's good for us. If you say yes, that's good for us. So they're not catching any fish. So I don't understand why they're playing hardball. I just walked away at that point. I'm like, you know what? We're dealing with hormonal, irrational women right now. It's not even worth trying to negotiate, and at this point I'm done even trying to make a barter with them. It just doesn't make any sense at this point. What we want to do now, we're not pushing the issue. What we're going to do is just let them fumble around for a few more days and not catch fish, and they'll come back, and when they come back, the deal's different. It's not 50-50 anymore, because they're coming back to us. The deal's more like 25% to them, 75% to us.
It sucks that we need the boys for some things. Like, I'm all about being independent, not, relying on men for anything. But fire is really important, and the way that they have their camp set up, they have an area to put wood to keep dry. They have all the things they need to cook food. They keep their fire going because it's right by their bed. I mean, they just have a really good system going for them, and we don't. So until we get that system down, unfortunately, there's things that we really need from them, and I hate that it's always like a bargain. Well, what can we get from you? And it's just so annoying, but it's the game. The worst thing in the world to me is being wet and cold, and it's been like that for a long time. And my hands, I've never seen my hands or my feet look the way they did. And it's just, you just want just a minute of warmth, and then you can just struggle through it. And when the boys said that they didn't want us standing around their fire anymore, we had to figure out for ourselves what we were gonna do.
I'm afraid to get married, man. Why man wouldn't be afraid to get married at this point? Look at Kobe. Look at the shit he's going through right now. All right? Guy's getting a divorce. His wife's gonna get $70 million. Never hit a layup in her life. Can anybody explain these divorce settlements? Can anybody make sense of these fucking things? Tiger Woods' wife, $250 million. She's a babysitter. Worth $250 million fucking dollars. Somebody, go ahead. Somebody, explain, justify it. Justify it. What, he cheated on her? I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. He cheated on her. Great, the relationship's over right then. Kobe cheated, right? Shouldn't that relationship been over right then? Why did she hang around like some jaded cop for 3 years trying to get her fucking pension, right? Get that 10 years in? I don't know, maybe that's too harsh. That shit bothers me, man. Dude, there is an epidemic of gold-digging whores in this country. And every night I put on the news, and I'm waiting for someone to address it. Every night, never see it, And every night I bring up gold-digging whores, and the whole crowd pulls back like I'm up here talking about Bigfoot, right? Like I'm saying the moon's made out of cheese or something. Talking about whores, people. They're everywhere. How many? How many more great men are going to get chopped in half before we do something? Why is it so quiet in here?
I think death would be easier than a divorce.
It's very frustrating to have gone for help and then come out with your family destroyed.
We have serious problems in our family law court system.
Getting divorced is far from easy.
Litigation lasted for over a year.
I was married only 4 months, and my divorce has lasted over 6.5 years.
Close to 8 years.
8 years.
Why is divorce so difficult?
People can get as much justice as they can afford. Most people cannot afford any justice at all.
What's wrong with that? This is a business.
The more you charge, the more people are willing to pay.
They didn't give me a lawyer. Pay this $11,000 or go to jail. It really got to the end of the line for me.
I said to the litigants, I want you to know, after 2 hours, we will have spent more than most people in this courthouse make in a year.
Your home, your valuables are all going to be sold to pay the lawyers and people like me.
Even though I was acquitted, he still made a decision to take my son away from me. His birthday was last week and I didn't get to see him.
What you have is a tinderbox, and the lawyers are throwing gasoline on that fire.
The system is designed to create conflict.
I received a phone call for another $25,000. He'd be able to give us what we wanted. Extortion?
Family court results in more violence than any other area of law.
Deaths, suicide, murder.
No jury, just the one biased judge.
The judge says, even if you win, you have to pay.
The whole thing is just insane.
Follow the money.
I'm gonna start at an 11. I'm gonna take it to about a 15 real quick. I'm a keg is half full kind of guy. But what I've seen from the monsters on this committee makes me want to puke, and not from beer. I went to Yale. Worked my butt off to get here. I busted my buns. And yeah, we had a couple thousand beers along the way. Especially my good friend Mark Judge. So am I angry? You're damn right. But if you think I'm angry now, you just wait till I get on that Supreme Court, because then you're all gonna pay.
Rachel, as you have pointed out.
But the ghetto, taking short steps 1 foot at a time and kept my head low and never let go, cause if I let go, then I'd be spineless, I'm going insane.
I think my mind just goes out of control and touch on subjects motherfuckers read about. I touch on the shit that they be leaving out. I seen this motherfuckers not smoking. I seen this, I bet you motherfuckers will too. Because it's time, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, still full. Time, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, still full. Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, still full. I think it's something in the water, man. It's got to be in the water.
Oh, fuck! Jumps on a killing spree again. With guillotine for men. I walk around town with a frown on my face. The whole world finna catch a murder case. The murder rate
may increase if you caught up in the world while it's dying. I guarantee you frying, cause I am on the verge of knocking it. I'm down for no reason. Once I get down, I'll be no